Hello, my friends, and welcome. Welcome to week 2 of our April Poetry Celebration. I'm just delighted you're here. Welcome if it's your first time joining us, or your second week, or your second year, or your fourth year. It is just so good to be together with you in poetry. I am Kate Chadbourne, and I'm a poet and teacher, and the founder of the Bardic Academy and the Celtic Wisdom School. And I'm hosting this celebration in conjunction with the journal makers Jumping Fox Design. And we'll be having some prizes from them, and I'll share an update on the way I'm using my Jumping Fox Design journals and notebooks in just a moment. First, I want to thank every one of you who sent poems this week. It was a wonderful haul of poetry. And I was delighted, and I was moved, and I was amused, and I felt things, and it was glorious. So please keep them coming. This week, if you'd like to share poems with me, please send them by the 15th of April. That's Friday, around 5 p.m. And again, and also thank you, everyone. You helped me so much by putting the poems in the body of the email, so it saved me a few steps. So I'd be grateful if you do that again. Thank you for that. So I want to share with you some of the great haul from last week. You might remember our dare last week was to go and speak with someone and ask them things and listen. And the poem, the spark, was to write a poem based on that. And we got some wonderful poems. And I want to say too, we got some poems that I so loved that weren't on the theme of the week or the spark and dare. And just know that that is completely up to you. Like, keep writing them. Keep writing them. We like any poem. Any poem is a good poem. So I want to share some from all of you. The first comes from my dear friend Skia, and this is the poem she wrote, "The Person I Saw Today." It's almost my birthday. The world is kind. I am invited to knock off early and bundle up for a walk on the beach in the thin spring sun. An unusual gesture from my husband of many years. The time comes. Here he is. Shrouded in silence, I cannot find him. "How was your day?" I say at last. He paces. He sits. He entwines his fingers in his beard. He ponders. At last he proclaims, "I suppose I had average productivity." "That's good," I say, "but how was your day?" A snap. "I would make faster progress with longer blocks of uninterrupted time." I hold myself and check my feelings for a scraped knee, but not quite bleeding. I try again. "What I really mean is, how did you enjoy your day?" He brightens. "It's looking up. Now that I'm going on a date." We both smile with what I can only guess is relief. That's delightful. Sometimes it takes some time, doesn't it, to get through and to really to let someone know that you really want to hear. That's a beautiful poem, Skia. It's a great moment. My friend Carla, who is a world traveler and a great writer, shared this poem I found so moving. It's called "Asking Questions by the Caspian," as in the Caspian Sea. As I said, Carla's a great traveler. Asking questions by the Caspian. "You said that women and girls should ask permission before leaving the house. How come?" "Maybe I know the site and she doesn't. Our role is to protect. Theirs is to make nice." Nice? Nice, yes. A woman is for beauty. Man has strength. Woman is delicate. She has caring for children, making food, shining shoes. It's how they were made. Why do you say that? Some things are not to be questioned, like why kids with the richest parents get the best grades, not studying, sometimes not even coming to class. They don't know the answers, but do we? Sometimes it's better not to ask. So asking about the way things are, sometimes we don't have an answer. So good. My dear friend Betsy, a wonderful artist, singer, multi-talented artist, shared this that I just found delightful. It's called The Tissue Box. Everything has its place in our kitchen, including a box of tissues, which typically sits lengthwise beside the microwave, leaving plenty of counter space for me or my husband to cook. Recently, I purchased a new brand of tissue, different because access to its content was cut out of the top and side of the box. A short time after I put the new tissue in its spot, I noticed the box had been turned, sticking out from the microwave sideways. It was awkward and in the way. I pushed it back, lengthwise. Hours later, I saw the tissue again turned sideways. The next day, I found the tissue box back in its impractical sideways position. I pushed it back, not in anger, not even really thinking about it, just putting it back in place, like a coat that slipped off its hook or trash that missed the barrel. It mysteriously went sideways once more. For the next week, we slid that tissue box back and forth, sideways, lengthwise. Finally, I asked my husband, "Why are you turning the tissue box sideways?" His answer, "It's awkward and hard to pull out tissues the other way." To this, I said, "Nothing." The following day, the now almost empty box of tissue was turned, but this time it was sitting kitty-cornered. Oh, Betsy, that is fantastic. I love there's an asking in there, but I also love that these moments also give us poetry. They are worth noticing. There's something in them. In this case, there's humor and delight and affection. Just marvelous. Great sense of noticing and enjoyment of regular life. So great. Betsy's dear friend, and mine as well, Kathleen, gives us a poem with a beautiful child in it, and it's called The Language of Little Ones. He's not saying much, yet knows what you say. When giving him a question, he shows you by simple ways you recognize. Watching, you can see. A child almost 2, and a fair distance still from 3. As I ask, "Are you ready to go in?" he runs away to stay outside, then turns around and grins. His answer is clear, and I understand. Today he is a baby boy, but someday he'll be a man. The urge to explore his own inner voice, building personal boundaries, reveals there is a choice. Puddles must be splashed. Dirt is guaranteed. The found language of little ones who often want to lead. We move through this big old world way too fast. I'm slowing down to hear you speak, and let these good days last. Kathleen, that's just beautiful. And the music of the poetry, the sounds and the rhyme, the subtle rhyme and the rhythm also lets us know that Kathleen is a wonderful musician, but it also adds so much to the enchantment of that poem. Thank you for that. My friend Mike, who often makes me laugh, sent a poem that just made me feel. It's a poem that has asking and listening in it, and I just loved it. It's called Barry. I try to remember to call Barry every week or two. We've known each other through music for about 20 years. I call him the blind dentist. He went blind from MS, but still worked as a dentist for 10 years. He has 4 very successful children. One is the lawyer for Elon Musk. He had open heart surgery a few months ago. He called me today, even though we talked a few days ago. He said, "Mando," that's what he calls me because of my mandolin playing. He said, "Mando, I have 3 words for you. Here they are. I love you." It brought me to tears. We need to remember to say things to people before it's too late. Hear, hear, Mike. Hear, hear, Barry. Well done, both of you. That's marvelous. That's marvelous. Thank you. And finally, this isn't a poem about asking, but I just sort of loved it. And as some of you know, I have a very imperious and delightful cat called Mish, and he asked me to include this poem. It's by my new friend Daniel, and it's called 70. When I resign, I will practice my penmanship. I will write on a typewriter. I will paint collages from all the articles I saved and never used. I will clean out my desk, the attic, basement, and garage, and then I will rake the leaves, mow the grass. I will wander and be a cat. Good plan, Daniel. We like that plan here. Thank you all. Please know, everyone, I would like to read every single one of your poems, and over time you'll hear yours read. It's just such a pleasure to receive them. It really is such a trove of treasures. And if we had 8 hours, I would read every single one of those poems. But thank you, and please keep them coming. I want to share a poem I wrote this week. It was inspired by a conversation I had with my friend Karen. And I was telling her that someone I loved died last week. And we were just, thrown into questions. And so this poem is called Death Sets Its Familiar Puzzle. What are people for? What's left at the end? What was supposed to happen? Does anyone complete all the items on the list? What do we leave behind, if anything? Are we different from other animals? Does a brief life count less than a long one? Does anonymity cancel out the living? Outside, the Japanese maple does not mourn her winter dead and broken branches, but pours her care into 10,000 red buds. The titmice light on her slenderest branch and ride it, laughing, their tiny crowns ruffled by a wind they recognize as affectionate. And atop the fence post, the red squirrel holds a hickory nut in both hands and eats, too exuberant to be grateful. The lake, more awake every April day, shines, at ease without saying so. I think of you, dear one, who left us this week, and all the others gone before, my own dead, whom I love and sometimes forget, but who rise in me all the same in my sense and instinct, more essential to me than definition, more essential to me than definition, in cycles as natural and holy as the coming of spring. That's for Phyllis and also for my friend Karen. So much. Let me show you, actually. I'm working in, so this is the beautiful Jumping Fox design, the A6 binder with all my stuff in it, and it's turned out to be a great place. I'm just enjoying so much writing poems in here and keeping my poetry log. You can see I'm just writing every day, which has just been so delicious and fun. Just, again, drafty as anything. You can see lots of cross-outs, lots of not knowing. Doesn't really much matter. At the same time, I'm also I'm bringing this little one. It comes with me everywhere. I really encourage everybody, get a jotter of some kind, something where you can even just write down an idea or something you've observed to bring home. This is my traveling one, and this is turning out to be my at-home one. But I also wanted to say I'm using the big one from last year as well. So maybe this is more your style. And just to show you, here's you guys. And this is where I'm keeping track of. I love seeing all your names in here and just keeping track of who sends poems. And also, I love seeing these things. Kathleen Larkin last year wrote, "What is a poet? A poet is the enabler of poetry." Anyway, so between these three tools, I'm using all of them, and it really helps me. This organizing this celebration takes a little bit of doing, and I find that having a good tool to hand is essential. So thank you again, Jumping Fox Design, for your wonderful tools and for sponsoring our contest we're going to have a drawing, and 3 people will receive the beautiful A6 binder, and 1 young person will receive our small jotter. So good. So I want to share with you a poem by another woman from this Boston area. Her name is Josette Akresh-Gonzales, and I learned of her because of Zachary Boss, who is a publisher and a poet himself, and he runs the Bonfire Bookshop, which I cannot recommend highly enough. It's in Fitchburg. And he told me about Josette, and I went and read some of her poems, and I wanted to share one in particular. She has just this year published a new book, and I'll mention it in the notes. It's called Apocalypse on the Linoleum, published in 2023 by Lily Poetry Review Press. And it sort of hooks on to our Spark and Dare this week. So thank you, Josette, so much for sharing your poems with us. This one is called Salam. My friends, I have placed my forehead on the woven prayer mat in a mosque, and I have drunk tea in tiny, heavy glasses, cross-legged on a Persian rug in a living room at the mosque. At the mosque, I pulled on a long cotton skirt from a bin at the door. And at the break of the Ramadan fast, I said salam to my neighbors, my best friends, mother's friends, and sisters, and air-kissed cheeks like French sophisticates. In America, my father and her father could play backgammon with no hard feelings, they said. Welcome, come in, sit down, have some tea. In the entrance to the mosque is in a dusty town north of Jerusalem. I heard the tongues of my father's father's father and lowered my knees next to the hot, strong tea, always honey, sweet saffron, and rose pastries on a delicate white plate. That is beautiful. I love the way that poem brings us right into a world and a feeling and the connection that the poet has with her family's family. It's beautiful, and I love that we have this now at Ramadan. So thank you, Josette, so much for that poem. So one poem this week, of course, from our poetry guide and mentor, Wes McNair. Again, this is his gorgeous book. And this week, Wes's poem gives us our Spark and Dare, and I'll explain in a moment. So the poem is called Sue Reed Walking. Sue Reed Walking. Cupboard dishes jerk past her head, family portraits, colored photographs of Keene. She is looking straight down, amazed by her left leg struggling against a current she cannot see. Oh, she doesn't know when her glasses flash up from that depth, quite where she is, or that her sweater twists childishly behind her back. But never mind. And never mind her hair is matted and her stiff hand carries its useless puff of air. Note with what care she places her 3-pronged cane to pull herself back together again and again. Listen to her warn the cat, I'm coming through. Watch Sue Reed walking. Love that, and there's another one of our cats, I'm coming through. So I love that poem, and I love Wes's careful attention through imagination to a woman walking in her house. Make way, cat. Noting every gesture and the feeling of it that comes through as he notes those gestures. The bravery of Sue Reed. We love that about her. So I thought this week, as a dare, why don't we go somewhere and observe someone? Or simply, if going somewhere is not possible or just doesn't fit in your life, just observe someone doing something, someone in motion, someone acting, and then write a poem based on that and see what comes up. And again, so our broader theme is people. And if you're moved to write any kind of poem about people, that's great. If you are moved to write other poems about other things, that's also great. We're so happy to have all the poems. So I do want to share with you just for a moment, Wes is busy these next couple of months. He's got readings from his new book. I'll put everything down below, but I just wanted to say he's got a reading coming up Thursday, April 20th at 7 o'clock in the Merrill Library in Yarmouth. And in May, he's got a reading in Belfast, Maine, and another one in Rumford, Maine. And in June, he's got one in Scarborough, Maine. So I'll share all the information below this video, but just in case any of you are local or can get to these readings, it would be so wonderful because you could meet Wes in person and hear more of his poems. And I just know that you would love that. And I know he'd be glad to meet you too. So finally, I want to say that one of the delights of this week, my friend Mike said that he had done a little experiment using artificial intelligence. And that, that's kind of all the discussion these days is AI and what's going on. So Mike wrote that he got access to Google's AI chatbot, which is called Bard. And he defines Bard, or Bard is defined online. Bard is a conversational AI, artificial intelligence, developed by Google. Bard uses machine learning and natural language processing techniques to generate human-like text responses to various prompts. The model is designed to mimic the style and structure of human writing. So Mike, who is playful and a scientist, asked Bard to write a haiku about a sleeping cat. And I think it did pretty well. This is what it came up with. A sleeping cat, cradled in the sun's warmth, purrs in her dreams. Pretty good. Okay, I'm sharing this one to just reassure you that we poets are irreplaceable. Okay, this one. Then he says, then I asked Bard to write an Irish limerick about St. Patrick. There once was a man named Patrick who drove all the snakes out of Ireland. He wore a green hat and carried a staff, and now he's a saint, celebrated worldwide. And Mike, I'm quoting him, says, that's crap. And he's right. So right on, poets, let's keep going. The human voice, the human heart is irreplaceable. And by that, I mean your voice and your heart. And thank you so much for being part of this celebration. It's already just so delicious. I appreciate you so much. So again, if you want to send poems, I'd be so glad to read them. You can send one, you can send up to 7, whatever you like, on the theme, not on the theme, suit yourself, by Friday at 5 p.m. And again, please put them in the body of the email, and it just is such a help. So thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing this video, liking this video, which I find very encouraging. It really does buoy me up. And if there's a poetry-loving friend, writing poetry, reading poetry, loving poetry, please share the video, and let's keep connecting through poetry. That's what we're all about. So thank you again, my friends, and until we meet again next week, I am wishing you a wonderful week of poetry. All my best.